accomplished things here and there in various different fields and industries. I'm not here to sell you anything or to boast about my achievements, but I'm here to find out what you guys think, what your experiences are, and exchange those memes. Okay, so we all have different and unique experiences, and that's kind of the perspective where I'm coming from. This is only going to show for 3 seconds, but this is a little bit more about who I am, and that was it. No photos, okay, that's fantastic. All right, there's basically a collection of words that I've been called along the way, so from good things to bad things.
It's got a word cloud.
Technogaianism. What is Technogaianism? Techno is short for technology. That was a hard one. Gaian, however, is short for Gaian philosophy, and I've highlighted here what that actually means. It fundamentally encompasses changes to the environment. Whenever one talks about environmentalism, there's views of whether humans should be shaping their environment or not shaping their environment, whether we are subject to it or we are masters of it. I think that, like everything, balance is key, but that's part of the fundamentals behind Gaia philosophy. Technogaianism is also one of the principal disciplines of transhumanism. There's 5 of them listed there, 5 main ones, and as you're coming to know throughout this talk, Technogaianism is actually involved with sort of the more environmental aspects of transhumanism. So environmental aspects of transhumanism. We're talking humans, now we're talking about how do we improve the humans within the bigger context of planet Earth, the universe. Bright green environmentalism. It is important to note what that is if you guys don't already. Who knows what bright green environmentalism is? No one. All right, so bright green environmentalism is basically a happy approach to environmentalism. I can't break it down more simply than that. It's a happy, positive environmentalism. We want to make things better, but we want to minimize or control destruction. It's basically a positive outlook on environmentalism, which is very hard, especially in this day and age, and with the social rhetoric that has been carrying, or the narrative that's been going on recently. Where does it come from? This is very interesting. How did I get involved in Technogaianism? There's a couple of books there that I've listed. One of them is called To Govern Evolution, Further Adventures of Political Animal. This slide will be made available so anyone can actually follow those links. Rather than have a references section, every one of those links is clicked to my source, and you can validate or invalidate it yourself. The HVR part, that's haven't read. So I haven't actually read that book. And then the other one is Win-Win Ecology. I haven't read that one either. RTM obviously is I've read too much. Bruce Sterling, and he's a fantastic author, and he's a science fiction writer. He actually, one of the, I guess, more well-known books is The Difference Engine, which he did with Will Gibson, which is a very hard-line cyberpunk book. We have The Hacker Crackdown, which I dare say you might even be mentioned in it, or me. And we also have the Viridian Design Movement, and that's actually where it all starts from. There was this space, have you guys ever seen the science fiction where there's that green glow coming from the monitors and that? It all comes from this design aesthetic that he introduced into his science fiction world, or view of the world, where good starts happening, and growth, and that's why he used the color green. But it was a bright green. It wasn't a natural green. It wasn't green that you be accustomed to see in nature. It's an advanced form of green. And that's where bright green environmentalism comes from. That's an example of bright green transhumanism. Or bright green environmentalism, sorry. So we've got the Raver Girl, very environmentalist there, conscious, you can tell, just by looking at it. You've got the slum cyberpunk laneways there, also in that same. And you can see there's different tones of green. While it's bright green, it's still that sort of, matrix. Everyone knows the matrix. It's that same green, okay? It's bright green. It's a futuristic green. So, going on more about, deeper into what's the different factions of environmentalism, I guess, within Technogaianism. We have bright green environmentalists and we've got radical environmentalists. The key difference, just to break it down, all technology degrades the environment. Okay, now that's a logical fallacy there's more than one logical fallacy there. And then when they follow it up with their second commentary, environmental restoration can therefore occur only with reduced reliance on technology, because there's some bit of technology that happen to have some unintended consequence. Let's just get rid of cars, let's get rid of factories, let's get rid of everything. And it's a very extreme method. There's also logical fallacies there, pretty evident. Bright green environmentalists, technology gets iteratively cleaner and more efficient with time. Developments can be environmentally friendly, and that's very important to know. If you're working in technology, it's on to us as humans, creating the technology, or the animals that also create technology, to actually think about where they want to take it and whether it will be environmentally friendly. You're in utter control as a human to develop a product, a business, a service that can decimate the entire world for profit. That's an option, but that's not the bright green environmentalist option. Nanotech and biotech can directly reverse environment degradation. That's a very crucial one to understand. If you think that all technology degrades the environment and the environmental restoration therefore only occur without any technology, then we are discounting the possibility to use technology to repair the environment. You're writing that off. And it's very hard to see actually examples of, evident examples of how commonplace this is, but we'll get to that. So my talk is broken down into three basic sections. The first, or premises. The first premise I started with is the science fiction one, which is any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And that's obviously an Arthur C. Clarke quote. You guys can read that at your leisure. But essentially, what is technology? It's techniques, it's processes, it's tools, it's a variety of things that make life better. Okay, that's key to understand. The environment makes life better too. So they're not so separate subjects when you come down and look at it. As a matter of fact, technology, the more that you look into actually what technology is, it's more about the brain and us than externalization factors, which is important to understand, because the radical environmentalists will often say, it's like technology is something that they don't use, they don't employ, or, I ride the bike. The bike's technology. They get you there quicker. So, of course, there's varying degrees of repercussions to the environment, but technology is really an internal process that we go through. It's not, or our brain adapts to. It's not an external factor. Some of the simplest forms of technology, the development and use of basic tools. We've got fire. That is technology. Tell me someone that you guys know that don't cook food. I actually know a couple. Not very good for them. But they extended our life by 40, 50, 60 years. The second one is an example of farming, which is also a technological process that allowed us to move forward, develop our processes and things, controlling the environment essentially. It's not a bad thing. And obviously the Porsche wheel, that was one of the best technology inventions to come so far. Here are some examples of alien technology. See, they're not human. We have the chimpanzee with the stick that they use to pull out the insects. There's actually a word for that, I forget what it's called. And a crow doing the same thing. So technology is not exclusive to the human domain. This is, have we got time for a small clip?
Yeah.
The sound's not going to work, is it?
That's right, you can make the noises for it.
Woo! Now you can see here, cephalopods are by far one of my favourite creatures. I am fascinated by them. But you can see how it's actually taking its house, its shelter, and using it as a tool. I can't imagine there's now the mini house movement and stuff like that, but I mean, it's taken the shell, used it as a house, wandered over to something and caught ensnared its prey, relying on turning that into a tool. Now, what is magic? Magic is unexplainable, it's supernatural, which really actually means it's against nature, right? Supernatural. It's something completely different to nature. I wanted to talk a bit about umwelt. Who's heard of what umwelt is? I pronounced it wrong, by the way. It's umwelt or something like that. But Peter showed me something the other week that from a TED talk that someone went in. It was about how do humans expand their senses from, you know, where can we end? How can we extend all the different methods of senses? And where do we go with that? And anyway, out of that, I heard a very interesting quote. Every animal thinks that their umwelt is their entire objective reality, not subjective, objective. Everyone thinks that they're being objective, even animals, and they think that that's their entire universe. Why is this important? Because anything outside of their own little objective reality, as they call it, is unknown. It's a mystery. It's magic, you know. It's a transgression of how they think the universe or their umwelt works. We don't have enough sensors, we don't have enough tools, we don't have enough measurements, but fundamentally that's what it comes down to. Transgressions of natural laws as we currently understand them. This includes, as I just said, the tools and technologies. Physics is a tool, or astronomy, biology, chemistry. And I just wanted to ask the question, where is our umwelt? Where does it end? Like every day it expands further into the universe, deeper down into the seas, from the macroscopic to the microscopic. What is, if we said what's the limit to what we can see and measure, how do we measure that? But the point that I'm trying to make here, it's extremely subjective. Magic is, I don't understand it. Okay, I can't understand it, I can't explain it with science. So I've talked about technology, I've talked about magic. Where does nature come in? And by the way, that is actually the face that I make every time I'm in a boardroom meeting and someone actually uses the word magic in a technical discussion. That is actually the face, that is a real photography of me. So, where does the nature come in? Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from nature. Obviously, it's camouflaged perfectly. So, we don't have to read that. I just want to explain my thoughts. As I said, I'm just me sharing here. What is the universe? We know what the universe is. Is the universe nature? Is it part of nature? It is, right? I don't know why people have issues understanding that. What is nature? And in the description of nature, you can actually see it to refer to the universe. It's, what do they call it in open source circles? A recursive loop. Okay, but what we know is they're fairly synonymous, okay? Where does nature stop? At the atmosphere? No. How far does it go? Obviously into space, and obviously onto another planet. And obviously on that planet there will be nature as well. You know, it's like, it's all nature. And why was that slide called Cracking the Code? This is where it gets interesting. Situation normal, snafu. You guys know what snafu means? Okay. Enter entropy, the ultimate and most pervasive law of nature. In the current known and observable universe, entropy and chaos reign supreme. White noise versus complex, fairly complex, distributed systems that us humans are capable of managing, creating, designing, operating. In a way, nature's own encryption. In a way, every part of nature that we have not unraveled yet, we have not created the science to be able to produce the repeatable result, to prove a hypothesis, is not unlike breaking a code of a system that is foreign to us. One of the best examples is steganography. So steganography is a type of encryption where you're hiding things in plain sight. So you see a plant, you know that the plant grows, you don't understand how it grows, or a human being, or an organ, or whatever, or the stars. Once we do our research, once we manage to get all the facts around it and do our data collection, apply our models, we arrive at a hypothesis, we can prove the hypothesis or disprove the hypothesis, we've broken that code. So it's and that's where the hacker thing comes into the the Cyberpunk Technofreak meets nature. Now, humans can use technology and manipulate it for good and bad. I don't think everyone's heard that rhetoric before, so I'm not going to go over it. But the one thing that I wanted to say about that is, it's not always bad, and it's not always good. So we have to have like a pretty unbiased, maintain an unbiased look at what that entails. I was going to play another video, but it's been removed. On that note, I'll just quickly, while I've got it, oh no, there it came back up. This is a small video that I encourage. It's on the slide, it's linked in the slide. Whole systems design and life cycle thinking and sustainability thinking, or sustainability engineering. And that's basically coming back to the concept that I was saying before. You can actually engineer to be nice to the environment. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be destructive. And I highly recommend you look that up. It's a very simple video to understand. I'm not going to play it for you, but it explains how if you look at one system, one disparate system, and you know, do analysis, research, whatever apply models, it will only get better if you start to compare it to other models around it, and you start to look at the environment around it. Like, for example, the example that they use here is with a clothes dryer, and they want to engineer a better clothes dryer, but then they start to take into consideration, oh, I haven't looked at the clothes washer yet, and what is all the impacts around the washer, or the clothes dryer. And then once you start to factor all that in, you actually create a life cycle. You get a better understanding of what you're dealing with, and you have a better chance of building something that's not going to have an unintended consequence. My third point was technology is an intrinsic natural human capability. And there's some lovely drums there, courtesy of Brendan. Technology is everywhere. So you cannot think of I was struggling, I was trying to think of where can I think that humans have not applied technology so far. And if we can think it, we apply it. It's everywhere. Some of the more things, I guess, things that people don't think about, sport, which Steve and Shanti have spoken about on the previous talks and demonstrated their suits and how you can enhance sport with technology. But sex, like sex, there's technology in sex now. I'm not just talking about teledildonics. I'm talking about even the prophylactic, you know, preventing unnecessary, like the condom, the rubber. That is technology. And that has a specific purpose to help us in a very primitive, intrinsic human situation. So I think I get it, I'm not going to drone on about it. But nature and technology, best friends forever. Bee vaccines, have you guys heard about that? So everyone keeps talking about the bees are dying, population, and blah, 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 and there's some sort of sickness that's befalling them. I don't know the whole details, I'll be honest. I just read that they've, all of these have sources, by the way, so don't blame me if they're fake news, but they come from science.org or phys.org, or most of them are actually coming from white papers and that and whatnot. There's a vaccine now for the bees. So this is specifically an issue. We may have caused the bees' demise, and then we can argue but forwards and backwards, you know, endlessly about who's to blame about the bees' demise, or whether it's industry, or whether it's humans, or whether it's technology, or it's computers or cars, whatever it is. The reality is we're now a core example of Technogaianism at work, and how it expresses itself through how a simple philosophy like Transhumanism or Technogaianism expresses itself through your hands, through your work, through your effort, through your fruits, is let's go create a vaccine for bees. Well, I mean, obviously they can't complain and say that it's going to give them autism and a whole bunch of stuff like that. So it makes it a little bit easier, but I mean, the point is there, we're actually actively going out there and helping nature everywhere possible and trying to achieve that balance. Recycle and 3D printing moon dust. Actually using soil to, the compressed earth brick project from Open Source Ecology are also doing something very similar. Open source engineering, genetic engineering. Kurzweil has even talked about this. It still hasn't happened to the degree that I expected. But I mean, that's a fantastic opportunity to have. I mean, GMOs are not necessarily wrong. Yes, you are messing with nature. But wouldn't it be better if we had open source, public review, discourse, and actually fix it? You know, it's not just about giving them more protein. There's going to be enough or less carbs or whatever you're trying to address with the modification. It needs to look at you need to apply whole systems design. You need to see. But anyway, that unfortunately proprietary genetic engineering is still here. Aquaponics, fantastic hobby of mine as well. Fishing, using fish waste to feed plants essentially, and sensors, a whole lot of sensors. Microfragmentation I just heard about like 2 days ago. Has anyone heard of that? That's when you get, so the barrier reef is dying, right? So this guy grabbed a coral, I can't remember who it was, but it's quoted in the article, just dropped the coral on the ground, it broke into 1,000 pieces. Do you know how long it takes to grow one of those corals? It takes an extremely long time. Like, that's a great idea for a super fund, I think. Like by the time you hit, pension age, it's like you
get a coral
farm, yeah. But and you save the barrier reef. But no, this guy's actually worked out a better way. He's dropped the coral, it's shattered to 1,000 pieces, and then he measured them and realised, put them all, lined them up, and realised that they were growing, all of them at the same rate. So he's just exponentially increased the growth rate or the production of coral. So now he's got these government grants approved, and he's going around the world, depositing coral fragments everywhere to just pick that up. Digital storage in DNA. That's a fantastic example. Digital, oh, these computers, I hate computers, I hate it on my phone. Well, guess what? We're going to store the data on your DNA soon, because it's way more compact. And we can do all sorts of cool stuff with it, having like your little hard drive walk around, mini-me. That would be cool and fun. Robot locomotion and any sort of the stuff that you've seen, the amazing stuff coming out of, what's it called, Boston Dynamics. All those movements of the robots, they're all modeled on nature. So it's very important to maintain that connection between nature and technology. I'm almost finished. Technogaianism. In this diagram, I just wanted to explain sort of how it works in practice. There's data, monitoring data. There's a lot of monitoring that needs. There's a lot more monitoring that has to happen. You know, we're talking about the public health record. We're talking about what I'm interested in is fish and migratory species and bacteria and a whole lot of other environmental factors. But data, we need data, and part of that relationship there is not just to obtain the data, but also produce data through Technogaianism principles. The other three are basically the pillars. So we've got geoengineering, which is just another word for climate engineering, which we've talked about. It's changing the environment in a better way. If there is a place that has a lot of bushfires, for example, like Australia, if we could work out a way, using technology, using science, using models and the data that we have available, to decrease or protect us, increase the safety of Australians, that's what that's about. Apart from like wielding clouds and sending them over to foreign countries and destroying their crops and all the rest of the science fiction stuff, that's what it is in its core. Genetic engineering, I think everyone in this room is probably familiar with it, so really no point in talking about that other than technology continues to progress in there. I want it to be open source because I want to know how it's progressing. I don't want to hear their annual general meeting report or go and, you know what I mean, or hear it from something. I want to actually be able to have a look at what they're doing. And biomimetics, biomimicry, that's kind of been an underlying theme across the whole talk, which technology and the way that we enhance technology and what we're relying on mainly now is to actually mimic some existing capability from nature. So we better a robot's movement by mimicking human or jaguar's movements. That's that aspect, that pillar of Technogaianism. So I've already talked about what those pesky humans and their technologies are up to now a little bit. Two things that I highly recommend to look further into that I'm really excited about right now are open source blueprints for civilization, which is what I talked about, open source ecology. This guy's basically done open source, how to build from nothing to a village, to the whole of civilization, including everything in between. We've got, CNC circuits, universal routers, the CEP, the compressed earth brick press, 3D printers, batteries, tractors, you can name it. This guy's done a few TED Talks. He's also got his own projects. You can download any of that and start your society from that. It's open source. There's no cost. Anyway, and every iteration of the tractor, every time it breaks down, and someone else from the internet tries to build it and says this doesn't work, it contributes, it advances that model, and we get new versions on demand, which you can build. You don't have to go to the manufacturer, or the over-the-air updates like on your mobile phone. You do it when you need it. Okay, and food computers, which are fantastic. This is also available on TED Talks. You have people that are. This is going to replace the fridge one day. That's what I'm going to say. The more you look into it, this is going to replace the fridge. There's lots of research being done with it. Lots of people get involved, and it's very exciting stuff. Another 3, and I'm almost finished. This is the future. What I think is future because what I just showed you there, the food computer and the open source technology has already happened. It's just getting better. Open source appropriate technology is a way of pretty much what I've been saying. Applying open source models to proprietary systems when we're ready to make them go to the next level, to advance, to progress, and exponentially in the way that transhumanism sort of talks about. Green nanotechnology, example of that. The bacteria that some of you might have heard that are now been trying to design and produce to eliminate waste. So it's a more efficient way of managing sewage systems, etc., etc. If there's no bugs in nature that we can readily chuck in sewers and go clean it up, we'll just make some. It's no big deal. Seed factories, last thing, that is really exciting stuff. And unfortunately, Brendan did not mention it in his talk about, what was it? Nana. Last month. Seed factories was the key to all of that stuff. Seed factory, if you have not heard, click on the link and follow it. It's very fringe. It's super fringe. But essentially what it is we can create a factory, like a 3D printer, which manufactures things, that will grow out, build more capability, but go through a life cycle, and then die and be recycled for the next generation continuously. So Mana did talk about that, but this talks about it in the wiki that's designed for this, talks about it in a lot greater detail. But do you understand what I'm saying now by seed factory? It's not a factory that has a lot of seeds. It's a factory that's created from seed, goes through a process and then comes around. Anyway, that's it. There's more information on the slide if you want it. We'll share the link somewhere.
Check it on the meetup, yeah.
There's our website. There's the Technogaianism group, community group in Facebook. Amanda Stoll runs that. She's awesome. She actually helped. I did not prepare for this slide at all, by the way, you can tell. But there's a lot of information there, a lot of good news. There is some level of radical environmentalism or non-rational, let's just call it not radical but irrational environmentalism thrown in there. But it's good to be around that too, so you can educate, learn and whatnot. And then that's basically me, guys. That's it.
All right. Round of applause for Leo. Yeah. Any questions for Leo? Oh, yeah. Any questions for Leo?
Oh, sorry.
Thanks, mate.
Can you put that slide back up for a second?
Yes.
Thanks, mate. You guys want to use the bathroom or grab some drinks?
So, yeah, take 3 minutes.
Any questions?
Music.
Back.
Oh, okay.
Website.
Okay.
You will link to the thing on the
This one?
Facebook.
I think the previous one, so. No.
There we go.
That's the one that
No questions.
No other questions? Come on, that was... No, we've had some hardcore stuff, and that wasn't even that hardcore. That was actually really interesting stuff.
Hands up, everyone got 100% of Leo.
So, Leo, how many...
Yeah, 2, 3 people. All right. So
How much
there's
radicalism...
some gaps in the knowledge. So
Sorry?
be curious.
How much radicalism have you got in Australia?
How many?
How much radicalism is there in Australia?
with environmentalism.
Yeah, environmental. Like, I mean, are there?
I don't know any hard numbers. I'm not a sociologist, but I can tell you there's quite a bit.
Okay, so
They're quite visible.
Well, let's not worry. So I guess the numbers is not so important, but the effect and impact. Like, have you got any like events in the news in the last couple of years
Yeah.
where they've been responsible for it?
Well, obviously, whenever there's any mining, and Australia's a very big mining country, and when you get into mining is a very good example because a lot of the land is actually holy land for Aboriginals, our natives, and it's off limits. And negotiations don't always go well. So there'll be some people that go chain themselves to trees or do other silly things that endanger themselves and everyone else. And then
Has there been much of that for a while?
there has with the CSG stuff. There was and I'm talking in the last 2 years.
Oh, the sheep.
No, the CSG, the
CSG.
coal seam gas
Okay, yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
There's actually small towns. If you go driving out to Queensland or North Coast or anywhere a little bit rural, out of you'll see small conclaves of towns, and not just one town. There'll be 2 or 3 or 4 towns. All the councils and all the community together saying, we don't want them. We don't have no use for it.
I'm not going. I mean, have we heard any newsworthy that's been in the media of actual radical actions, whether it be pseudo, eco-terrorism or protracted things,
Well,
sabotage? Have we had anything in the last couple of years? Because I don't watch the news much.
Okay, me neither.
Yeah.
But what I'm telling you, those protests happen all the time, and in every single mining operation that happens here, pretty much. And there will be a law enforcement present and try to control the situation, but it doesn't always end friendly. But on that note, from a different angle, let me give you from a non-mining angle. What other kind of radicalism is there that's environmental?
Are we hearing much about it? Is it in the news or is it the media not covering it?
So here's another good one. The first. I don't know if I want to talk too much about this, but the first.
Anyway, it's just us.
The first person that went into a pig farm
Yeah.
and recorded all the going on there, like the unethical treatment of the animals and all this stuff. That was in Australia, and since then it's been mimicked internationally. So there is even to that level in Australia. It was a very well-known pig farm. It even got people from overseas involved. No press coverage, but they did change the law. Did you hear about that? So now for someone to go undercover, a civilian to go undercover to go and for example, protest this, has to have a compiled case. Otherwise, it does not. They actually get arrested for going in there and capturing insufficient evidence to compile a full case. So it's actually a thing here. We've got a lot of land, we've got a lot of animals, we've got a lot of mining.
I think there was something just in the news recently about, it wasn't so much the footage it caught, but how they caught it, right?
The what?
It was about, I think it was to do with animals and mistreatment, but it was more about, they were more offended about that they had obtained the footage. I think this is in the last 3 weeks or something,
Okay.
but it wasn't what they obtained, it was more about
How
they obtained it.
And that's since they changed the laws, and they changed the laws specifically after the pig farm. But the pig farm isn't a one-off incident. There are countless. There's Peter representation here.
No,
But
don't talk about Peter.
well, see, this is what I'm saying, and I'm telling you, I come from a perspective that I've been a vegetarian for 15 years, and I know a whole lot of those people. But there's no room for extremism anywhere.
No, I just found out some odd news about Peter because I thought, what, if a bunch of hot people want to get their clothes off, that's okay. But I found out that they actually do a lot of killing because their view is that no one should have pets. So they will actually, they're like in the US, they're taking people's pets out of their front yards and taking them off down to the pounds and getting them killed because they don't want them to go back into the cycle. So they're actually doing a lot of the actual killing. Peter is, and I'm like, what? I thought they was like liberationist kind of people, but they really against that. And I'm like, that's just changed. I only learned that sort of last week. That changed my perspective. I didn't realise that they're actually into the kill game and kill more people and kill more a lot
So
more animals.
kind of a transhumanist population control thing
Yeah,
going on.
it's just like we don't want anyone to have a pet, so we're going to kill the animal. So it's kind of an interesting. Does anyone know much about Peter and that they do that? Because I didn't know.
I do know that they
Penn and Teller did a thing on TV.
A lot of the
Whole episode on them.
rescue or a lot of those rescue cases, they're taking the animals. A lot of the time, I think it was like 9% actually get put down.
9%.
It was like over 50%. Over 50%. Of the animals that seem to be like
Well, PETA apparently try to kill most of them so they don't go back as pets to anyone. And I just found that, okay, that was a bit odd. And I just thought they were liberationists kind of people, and I'm like, cool. But yeah,
Is that
it's
a
just
Australian one at Pause?
pause.
Yes.
Pause. I'm not sure what pause was. I don't know pause.
It's something Pause.
Yeah.
There should be a lot. I mean, I used to breed, cats many years ago, and there's like a lot of cat farms and pet puppy farms and things like that, and they are bad. They are bad, and they're selling some very, very expensive animals, but very mistreating them as well. So it's kind of like there's been a lot of crackdowns on that. The RSPCA has been quite active, and they've got quite reaching powers actually. You just have to drop a farm in, and they go in there with police support and all sorts of things.
Last question, Leo. So can technology fix climate?
Of course you can.
So what's the roadmap for that?
Wait. Does climate change exist? Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, hey, we've got science party people here.
Well, that's perspective, isn't it?
Look, of course it can. I mean, anything that we apply technology to and human rationality, as long as there's the rational factor there, we can do anything we want. It's our right to do that. If we cause this problem in the first place, then we have every single bit of responsibility to make it better as well.
Does that mean we don't have to do anything and just wait for it to all just fix itself?
You're asking a question about a loaded question on activism then.
Okay, so here's a question. Elon Musk is not about fixing things; it's about going elsewhere just in case. Should the balance of in expenditure, because obviously it takes hundreds of millions to put things up into space, should the balance be on trying to fix what we've got, or look for the backup plan? I guess Elon Musk is like the ultimate backup plan guy. It's like Mars, let's nuke that.
Yeah.
So he's kind of looking for what's next if we screw up, I guess. He's not really focused. I mean, he's focused a bit here with the solar and the roof tiles and doing other things, but
Batteries.
he's spending the most amount of money. You can't really claim any of his batteries are related to the environment because they do more damage to the environment than they help.
Not a lot of people know that.
Yeah. Most people don't realise that a Toyota Prius will do more damage to the environment than a Hummer because the lead in the batteries. So I think it's about
lead, is it?
Yeah, it's about the lead. It's the lead and the chemicals and everything that's too. So it's about 3 lives of a Hummer. Its damage is about 1 Prius. People don't kind of like really get that because electric cars early on are pretty much about warm and fuzziness.
Yeah.
It's about the warm and fuzziness, not about. But it's a start though.
It is.
It was always a good start.
Yeah.
The current batteries are a lot less impacting.
Yeah.
And they're getting better and better and better. But the early ones were pretty bad.
Okay, a question back there.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, it's more about the chemicals on that side. You know, there's been some reports on it, but
We'll probably do a separate talk on the
we
balance
should
of land.
Does
does anyone know a lot
That's a
about
topic.
batteries? Because there is a lot of stuff coming, including what's the new stuff that Samsung and everyone's done? No.
Yeah, there's a new gen battery.
Hey Zach, what's
We
it?
should give a talk on that next time. Like, you should talk about the new gen battery.
Graph